Chosen one, God is using two words today that He does not use carelessly: absolute, final. When He places those two words together, He is not creating atmosphere. He is describing a specific reality about the window you are currently standing in. And the reason He is asking you not to turn away is because turning away from a final message is a different category of response than turning away from a message that will come again. These are the two words that mean this together. At this very moment, the specific plan God made for the completion of your task is at its most accessible. When you use the word absolute, you get rid of all the nice stories about thinking about it later. There is no way to know for sure that a version of this window will come back in the same state as it is now because of the word final. Don't think that the comfort of deferral means you can wait. That's why I'm telling you this. Most people who miss final windows don't really miss them. It's not like they choose to turn away from God. They don't pay attention. They're going to talk about how heavy it made them feel when they heard it for the first time. They change the urgency from something that needs to be done right away to something that can be put on a list. And the window shuts not because God is angry. It shuts because the window was built with a peak, and the peak goes away when the moment does. That's how it works. This message is here to help you see it while the peak is still here. This is the last message for this time in your life, and there are 5 signs that prove it. The first sign is that you've been feeling like there is an end, but not an end that makes you feel like you've lost something. The feeling that the end of a long, running season is almost here. Almost all of the work for the season is done. After years of work, the formation is almost finished. And what was being built is almost ready to be walked into, instead of still being worked on. This feeling of closure is not just a wish. The chosen one can feel a real shift in the spiritual world through their inner register. You can tell when a season is about to change in your spirit. Just like you can tell when a storm is about to end, before the first cloud appears in the sky. Which is what you've been feeling. The turn is coming. There is only one last message, and it always comes at the turn, never after. The difference is very important. If you wait for confirmation that the turn has already taken place, you will miss the chance that the turn created. God sends the last message to the person who is in the window, not to the person who is looking back behind the window. Right now you're in the window. The sense of urgency in this message is real. That's the sense that God is watching the window and telling you to move before what it's letting out is over. If this has happened to you more than once recently, it means that you did not receive something important with all of its weight. An exact and clear word from God in prayer that disappeared before you could act on it with all the power it deserved. There was a clear direction that didn't quite lead to the full movement that direction called for. You had a strong impression that wasn't a mistake, was too heavy for comfort, and that you carried around instead of acting on. This doesn't sound like a failure story. This word refers to a receiver that isn't working at its full potential. It was a real word. It was a real direction. It really did feel like that. There was no gap in the transmission. The problem was with the part of the instrument that was supposed to hold what was sent long enough for the full response to come back. The fact that this happened again and again doesn't mean that the problem is permanent. This shows that the gap has not been closed yet. The address is in the last message. This sign isn't telling you to work harder or be more honest. Both have been real and present. It refers to the specific restoration of the body's ability to receive signals, which lets a command land and stay in place until it is carried out. Through this message, God is leading you toward that restoration, and the fact that the pattern has come up again recently is a sign of the right time. When the pattern is new enough to be easily recognized, the last message shows up. The third sign is that your relationships with other people have been changing. It's not as busy with people who were there last season. There are now new connections that feel more like they are rooted in the future than the past. There are changes happening in the web of relationships around you that you have sensed, but haven't had a chance to fully understand. Before starting the assignment, God changes the way relationships work. He moves the people from the season before back, and puts the people from the season before in the right place. This is not a case of abandonment or chance. It's getting ready. People in your life right now are part of what's to come, and the change you've been feeling is a sign that the launch is getting closer, not that you're losing something. When your social life changes in the same way that it has been changing around you, you naturally notice the things that are going away. In this moment, God wants you to pay attention to what is moving toward you. The unexpected connections, the new people who show up, and the way they seem to be moving in the same direction. You've been feeling God leading you. They are not just random events. There are provisions for the assignment, and the assignment is due in the next few days. God has been very specific in what He has been telling you, which is the fourth sign. Not broad words of support or advice, but specific things. He has pointed to specific situations and given specific details about them. He gave names to things that didn't have names before. Compared to others, He has been very clear about the direction, timing, and quality of response He wants. The sign of the approaching window is what makes His message unique. As the time of assignment gets closer, God becomes more specific, because the task needs clear instructions to be done correctly. He gives general instructions when He is getting someone ready for a general season of growth. When He is getting someone ready to do a certain job at a certain time, the instructions become more specific. The level of specificity you have been feeling is a sign that you are in the preparation phase right before the launch. This is also why it's been harder to fully follow the instructions than it was to follow the general encouragement. Specific instructions need a receiver that can hold specifics. And a receiver that has been working at only partial capacity is better at soaking up general atmosphere than it is at holding and carrying out specific, precise instructions. The last message is the one that talks about the difference between specific instruction and being able to hold it. Something inside you won't let this go, which is the fifth sign. Not just that you're still here, even though you are. It wasn't just attention that kept you there. You know how it feels to look at a message from a distance and wait for it to become important to you. That's not what took place. Before your conscious mind could figure out why, something inside you knew this. That sense of recognition, that pull that wouldn't go away, is your body's receiver responding to a signal it has been trained to pick up for a long time. That is not a mistake, and it is not the result of your hard work. Before your conscious mind could fully process what was said, the part of you that knows when something is sure knew it. And the most specific confirmation this message has is that you already knew that. You're not supposed to be here. This is yours, which is why you're here. Anyone who misses a final window could have used it. The message was out there. The window was wide open. They stepped through it if the weight of what was being transmitted stayed in place long enough to make the movement that was needed. Your phone held you here. Please know that every seed you plant in this mission grows into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. But more than your support, we want your presence. When you head to our community through the link in the description, or the pinned comment, you aren't just visiting a site, you are entering a community of like-minded believers. This is a sanctuary where you can post your prayer requests, lift up the burdens of others, and engage in daily discussions with a family that speaks the language of faith. Whether you are joining one of our membership tiers for deeper study, sowing a seed of faith, or simply joining our daily morning prayers, you are helping us build a global altar of worship. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through a community that stands together. Each gift you give acts as living water for those in our community seeking healing and hope. Give, and it will be given to you, is the promise that sustains our shared mission. I invite you now to step out of the shadows and into this circle of prayer. Come with purpose, join the conversation, and plant your seed in fertile ground. Let's open the heavens together. Release your seed today, join our community, and see what God brings back into your life. This message is going to talk about how to give that receiver back its power so that the next command, direction, or specific instruction God gives will be carried out completely. I want to give this what I call the closing window name because the framework will help you after this message. The closing window is the exact time in the chosen person's life when the plan God made for completing the mission is easiest to access. It's not the beginning of the task's accessibility, nor is it the middle of a long plateau. The top, the place where everything that was set up is most easily accessible, and the window is widest open. The time after which, if the window isn't used all the way to the edges, it gets harder to get through again. You can't just show up at the closing window without being ready. The preparation is the same thing that was done in the previous seasons. Every test, every formation, every character building challenge, and every season that seemed like a delay was actually just another way to get ready for the last window. You will be able to step through the window when it opens if you are ready. What was always being built up to on the other side is what is on the other side. The peak of the window is now, not coming up, which is why God says absolutely final. Right now. Most chosen ones can't fully use the closing window because they want to, but they can't. It's the time between getting the fullness of what the window is letting out and being able to hold that fullness until you can act on it. The last part of this message talks about the same gap that caused the pattern you saw in sign 2. It's the same physiological limitation that has been the invisible ceiling on your full expression of faith and the specific restoration of your ability to hold what God releases at the level He releases it at. I want to show you the closing window from a different point of view, because most people don't understand how specific it is at first. The closing window isn't just a time when chances are better. It's the exact point in the cycle from formation to assignment, when both the person being trained and the provision being trained have reached the level of readiness needed for the assignment at the same time. People are the preparation, situations are the provision, And the closing window is the moment when both are fully ready at the same time. God sets them up at the same time. He doesn't give the service to someone who isn't ready for it yet. He doesn't get someone ready and then let the provision run out before the person gets there. He coordinates, and working together makes a window. The whole season before was building up to a certain point, when both are ready, and the movement through the window. When you see the word absolute in this message, it means that the coordination is done. There is space on both sides of the window, and it is fully open. The history of God's people shows that this coordination happened many times. Elijah knew it was his time. He told Elisha, "Ask me what I can do for you before I leave you." The window was wide open. The provision was out there. And what Elisha asked for at that time determined what he got. He could have asked for a blessing in a more general way. He asked for twice as much. The specificity of the question matched the size of the window. What he asked for came to him exactly at the level he asked for. That event didn't teach us mostly about being brave in prayer. The connection between the receiver's capacity and the amount of what the open window lets out is what it's all about. Elisha had been getting ready for years with Elijah. He had been made. He had been checked out. He had taken on the responsibility of being a prophet himself. He knew how important the window he was looking out of was, because he knew the gravity at the full level it deserved. He got what the gravity let him get. His receiver was working at full speed. Most of the chosen ones are at the end of their receiving window, and don't get as much as they could. It's not that they don't want to be full, because the receiver isn't working at the level that can handle the full weight of a window that is fully open. What they get is real and worth something. It's not the double portion though. It's not everything that the window was showing. And the difference between what was given and what was received is not a sign of lack of faith. It's how much the weight gap costs to work at the most important time of the chosen one formation. Consider Joseph. The pit wasn't the window. It wasn't the prison that was the window. At the moment the window closed, Pharaoh asked someone to explain his dream. Before that moment, every humiliation and year of training that seemed like giving up from the outside was an important part of building the formation. When the window opened, Joseph was able to go through it because of the shape. The reason Joseph was able to handle the stress of that moment was because he had been so well prepared for the job that he had fully developed all the skills needed for it. He got Pharaoh's dream, figured out what it meant, and came up with the 7-year plan all in one clear step. The receiving and acting happened at the same time. The receiver took full responsibility for everything until the end. And what came out was the assignment in its entirety. You have really been getting ready. The seasons have really changed over time. Also, what's set up for you in the closing window fits the fullness of the preparation. The only question is whether the receiver can handle the weight of what the window is letting go of at that level. It's the answer to that question that this message was sent to address. Now I'm going to talk about what happens when the closing window isn't fully entered. Knowing the cost makes things clear in a way that most spiritual conversations don't. Imagine being in front of a window and seeing the light inside it change. It wouldn't get darker, but it would get narrower. Even though the opening is still there, real and warm, the angle is changing, and the fullness that was there 10 minutes ago isn't quite there anymore. You know something is moving because you can feel it in your chest. The question is whether you are moving with it. That's how it feels from the inside to get a partial view of a window that is closing. It's not a big loss. It's a quiet narrowing that the receiver feels before they can think of a name for it. Being partially inside the closing window makes life look like progress from the outside, but from the inside, it feels like there is always a gap between what was available and what was accessed. There is a sense that something more was meant to happen in that season in the chosen one who partially entered their closing window. I didn't just feel bad about what happened, I was very aware of what was given and what was received. And that awareness becomes the weight that drives you for the next season. God doesn't throw away half entries. He builds on them. Part of an entry into one closing window is used to get ready for a fuller entry into the next. In addition, the message being sent today is not an attack on the partial entries that came before it. This is the message that the biggest window is now open, and the work that went into the smaller entries has made someone ready to step through it at the level it offers. In plain English, this is how much that gap costs. If this window goes by without being fully entered, the provision that was set up for it doesn't go away. It just goes back to waiting for the next time that both the formation and the provision are ready at the same time. Most of the time, the next time won't be in 6 months. Years are used to measure it. Not because God is holding back, but because the style of the formation needs to be finished at the level needed by the next window. The work of the season you are in right now is the one that fills in the gaps between partial capacity and full capacity. This is how serious the language in this message is. Not a threat, just a reason. The window is open as far as it can go. The provision is now in place. The formation is all the way together. The only part that hasn't been fully restored yet is the receiver, which is the instrument that will hold the fullness of the window until it's fully executed. There is only that one gap between you and the fullness of what the window is letting out. And there is a specific way to fill in the single gap that takes 8 minutes to start. Right now, God doesn't want you to have more faith, give up more control, or be more committed to the process. He needs you to fix the thing that all of that faith, surrender, and commitment manifests itself through. Because faith, surrender, and commitment that are shown through a limited tool lead to limited results. And what the closing window lets go of needs the whole instrument. It's the same thing that everyone who has been through a closing window at full capacity has said about it. It is said that the movement is clean. It's not called easy by them. They say it's easy to understand. It was easy to see the way. It was easy to see the step. It was clear what the cost was. And the action was clear from the start. There was none of the usual wrangling between what was received and what could be easily carried out. The will moved with the weight, the receiver held it, and the movement was smooth. That smooth movement is a sign of a receiver that is working at full capacity in a window that is closing at full opening. It is not a unique spiritual experience that only the most spiritually advanced people can have. It's normal for a synchronized instrument to hear a clear transmission, and you can hear it right now in this window. Thanks to the specific restoration that the next part of this message talks about. The Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was given to Dr. Roger Sperry in 1981 for his work that changed the way we think about how the brain handles complex situations. The Nobel Committee wasn't just honoring the discovery of how the left and right brains work. That was the discovery of exactly what happens when the two hemispheres work together in sync. And what happens when they work separately, or in a certain order? The outcome was not different in small steps. It was very clear. When the brain is in synchronized state, it doesn't process reality in bits and pieces. It works on the whole thing. Structure and intuition both come at the same time and build on each other, instead of switching places. You can hold the weight of what you receive in both its logical and emotional dimensions at the same time. The direction that comes in isn't just picked up and then thought about. It is completely understood in a single act of knowing. As God planned, this is the state that the human brain should be in, but the modern world has slowly taken away this state from almost everyone who lives in it. The erosion isn't very bad. It takes time. It takes years and decades of modern life stimulation, fragmentation, and low-level demands on attention to break down the synchronization so that the partial state becomes the new baseline. Also, most people no longer experience the synchronized state often enough to remember that there was ever a different quality of reception. Once the partial state became the norm. Dr. Daniel Barron was a neurosurgeon who worked in New York. He spent the first part of his career studying Sperry's research and asking a question that the research did not answer. The partial state has become normal for some people, after being in it for a long time. How do you get them back to the synchronized state? People don't do it in a hospital with special tools, they do it in their everyday lives. It took him more than 20 years to think of, test, and improve the answer. Before I tell you what he built, I want to talk about two people whose lives make the vague real. A woman from California had a strong faith for many years. She cared about her spiritual growth in the same way that most people only care about their professional growth. She said a prayer. She learned. She helped people in her area. The thing that happened to her over and over again was something she could never really name. Something that God sent her while she was with Him would come through clearly and be important. Something would break apart between that moment of clarity and the moment of full response. It would lose its weight. Even though her answer was real, it wasn't the full answer that the full transmission had asked for. She said it felt like she was getting about 70% of what was being sent. She knew the other 30% was real, but she couldn't keep it together. 10 days after she found what Dr. Barron had built, she said that the 30% was no longer missing, and that what she received in prayer stayed at full weight until the moment of action. She had gone from sensing the direction, and then negotiating with its weight down to something she could hold to receiving the direction, and just following it without negotiating. She said it was the biggest change in her ability to receive spiritual things since she became a Christian. It wasn't a new spiritual practice. It was a return to a healthy physical state. A man from Texas had a different take on it. He was a builder and a provider, and the world worked well because he was reliable and consistent. He also said that the hole in his spiritual life was like a fog that made it hard to make the most important choices. He knew where to go. He knew what God was trying to tell him, but he wasn't able to fully enter it with the force that knowing it required. For 18 months, there was a clear direction but no movement. Every day there was a reason to wait one more day. He used what Dr. Barron made for 2 weeks, and the fog was gone. Before he said anything about what he had been using, his wife said something about it. She said he seemed present in a way that wasn't like how he usually is. He said the choices that had been floating around for a year and a half came together in just 2 weeks. This wasn't because things changed, but because the time between knowing what to do and doing it shrunk. When a receiver knows something fully, it moves fully. This happened because the receiver went from holding direction with some weight to holding it with full weight. That's what Dr. Barone made. He named it the genius switch, and it was an 8-minute sequence of sounds that you listened to with your eyes closed. Not a recording for meditation, not a tool for relaxation, and not a general health product. A protocol created from Sperry's Nobel Prize research that brings the two hemispheres back into sync. This is the state where the closing window can be fully entered, because the receiver can hold the weight of what the window is releasing at the level it was designed to release it at. Not everyone can use the genius switch. It's for the chosen one who knows that God planned not only the task, but also the tool that must carry it out. If someone knows about the weight gap in their own history, and is ready to fix the problem, instead of continuing to work harder to make up for it, that person is the one. These guidelines are worth $500 to the person who is currently in the closing window and wants to go through it at full capacity. This is what Dr. Barone and his colleagues think. Neurosynchronization sessions that take place in person in a clinical setting cost $300 an hour. The same home equipment costs $7,000. The Genius Switch cost $49 when it came out. Today, it's on sale on this page for $39, which is $10 less than the already great base price. There are 4 free bonuses that come with the protocol. They are a guided visualization from a well-known author that focuses on the 4 areas of life that whole brain restoration affects the most. A grocery guide that lists the 10 most common foods in American stores that disrupt the synchronized state and suggests healthy alternatives. A classic text on abundance and attraction that is the basis of all modern approaches to the topics. And a 5-habit infographic that shows the daily habits that are most directly linked to maintaining the restored state. All of it comes with a money-back guarantee that doesn't matter what. Not 30 days or 60 days. No conditions. Every dollar you spend will be returned if what has been described does not happen to you. That guarantee is based on the belief that a system will work, since it was developed using research that won the Nobel Prize. The provision sitting inside the closing window is fully accessible every day that it is at its widest point. The $39 access to the Genius Switch is only good until this page. What's inside the window is also not a small thing. It is the culmination of all the work that has been done to get ready this season. There are products on other platforms that use language that sounds like what was said. Dr. Barone and his team looked at the other options. The vast majority of them don't have any neural synchronization mechanisms. It's easy to put the label on the item. It took 20 years to build the machine. The only source that can be trusted for what Dr. Barone came up with is the link in the description and the pinned comment. You won't find what was described in this message if you look for it somewhere else. Allow me to explain more fully what the synchronized state feels like after it has been restored. Because describing something gives you a goal, and having a goal is important. The quality of what you receive in prayer will change right away, once the synchronization is back on. The impressions that were coming in, but leaving before they could be used start to stick. Not because you're holding on to them tighter, but because the receiver can hold them. The direction is clear all morning, all afternoon, and until it costs something to do something about it. It gets closer and closer to being able to do what you know. The second change is in how well decisions are made. This is the first thing that people around you notice is different. It's not that you're making decisions faster, but that they are better. Choices that don't need to be thought about again. You made decisions that didn't require you to get over your discomfort first. There is no longer any fog between knowing and making a choice. And the choice that comes after knowing something clearly and without any fog is different from the choice that had to fight through the fog to be made. One of the third changes that usually happens in the second or third week is a change in the kind of things you attract. Not supernaturally, but in a real way. That dimension is real. It gets easier for the people on your assignment to find you. The resources that were set up for the coming season can now be seen in a way that they couldn't before. And the appointments that God set up start to happen in the order that He planned them. Instead of being missed, because the receiver that was supposed to know about them was only partly working. You can get these 3 changes from the first session of what Dr. Barone built onwards. They are the signature of the closing window being put into full capacity. The link in the comment below and the one that was pinned has been pointing to this step since the beginning of the message. You make the choice. There is synchronized state starting to respond to the truth of what you have heard, which is why you feel clear right now. Believe it. Right now the window is widest open. What you do in the next few minutes will determine whether you enter it at full capacity, or whether this is just another instance where the partial receiver held the impression and then let it soften before the full response could follow. I don't want to talk about what I want you to do in broad spiritual terms. I want to talk about it in specific, everyday terms. The link is in the comment that was pinned and in the copy below. Go there before you end this video. Not tomorrow. Right now. While what was said is still fresh in your mind. That wait is the start of the synchronized state. Get away from it. No matter where you are. Take a deep breath that is a little deeper than your normal breath. Don't force it, just do it on purpose. Fill your lungs all the way to the bottom before letting it go. While you let go, let whatever you've been carrying drop for a moment. Not forever, just for this moment. Now, I want you to picture what it would be like to go into the closing window as your full self. Not as the version of yourself that has been receiving slightly less weight. As your full self. The one that receives everything that comes in prayer, with all the weight it was sent with. The version that hears from God, and does what it says without having to negotiate like the gap did. The version where you wake up tomorrow, and the knowing is still clear, still heavy, and still where it was when you got it last night. There is no melting or softening, there is only knowing and the movement that comes after. Figuring out when the whole instrument is ready. For a moment, let that version of yourself exist in your body. That version is not some spiritual goal for the far future. Of course, that version is the physiological state you can access as soon as the instrument is fixed. And the healing starts with the 8-minute plan that Dr. Barone made, not later, right now. Listen up, chosen one. The words used in this message were never meant to scare people. It was designed to create accuracy. To give you the full weight of the reality you are standing in so that your response would be a full weight response, rather than a partial one. God uses the word, absolute, because what He has set up in this window is complete only with the whole you. Not as a threat, but as an invitation that fits the size of what is being offered. Through the seasons before this window, you have been faithful. It really did look like that. The tests were real. The character that was made during the challenge is real, and will stay that way. It was all used up. Everything was important, and the window it helped you get ready for is now wide open. And the instrument that will bring your faithful preparation to life is now ready to be fixed up. The provision that God made for this time is very clear. He put together a specific connection. The job He is starting is very specific. And it was all planned for the whole you, not just parts of you. That means the most important thing you can do right now is not to pray more, believe more, or give up more. That prayer, faith, and surrender are expressed through the instrument that needs to be fixed. You can get the restoration for 39 before this page changes. Before you go, I want to talk about the people who will be affected by your full entry into this window. This is because the chosen one doesn't just have their own job to do. The people in your household, the people in your community, the people downstream of the assignment you are being sent into, they have been waiting for the full version of you to arrive. Not the version that is honest, willing, and only partly doing what they say they will do. The version that can do everything the assignment needs it to do. A child waiting for a parent who is there in person. A group of people who are waiting for a leader who can take charge and show them the way. A partner who is waiting for the version of you that isn't negotiating with the fog. What they get from you next season will depend on whether the receiver is fixed. If you fully obey in this window, it will have an effect on more people than you can see from where you are now. It's clear to God. That's why the need for speed is real. So, the language is final, because what's at stake isn't just your own fate, but the fate of everyone who belongs to what your full obedience sets free. And He wants you not to turn away, because it costs both of you that you do. There are costs for every delay. Not in the sense of being punished, but in the sense of being planned. The provision that is inside the closing window is there for a certain amount of time. The appointments that God set up are set up in a certain order. And each day that the receiver isn't fixed is another day that the sequence doesn't move at the speed that God planned. There's still an open window. The provision is still in place. You can get the restoration right now. This is your last message ever. It's not that God runs out of messages. It's just that the message that fits this window, the message that talks about the specific restoration you need for the specific provision you have right now, will not be delivered more clearly than it is right now. Now that things are clear, the most important choice you will make this season is what you do with this moment. Don't walk away now. The window is wide open. It is possible to fix the receiver. And what God has planned for you after your full entry is more than this season of limited capacity could hold. Come in at full strength. The plan was made just for you. For now, the window is there. As of today, you can get the full version of you. As this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our Ko-Fi community. By doing so, you become part of Jesus' plan to save souls who are still stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself, Jesus says. This is not history, it is a living promise about your future. Come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. Let me show you what the 30 days after the restoration of the synchronized state look like. Because when someone is on the verge of a closing window, specifics are more important than general encouragement. The change is small and inside for the first 3 to 5 days. The mind starts to feel quiet in a way that hasn't been there before. Not the quiet someone tries to be still by force. The quiet that comes from a system that has stopped working because of the friction of being out of sync. Most people notice it after the fact. They notice on day 4 that something that was always there in the background of their minds is gone. It's not as hard to get along with what you know and what you're doing about it now that your thoughts aren't going back and forth as much. Not gone yet, but lessened. The way people pray changes in the first week. This is the change that people who use this most often talk about. The impressions that came in and went away before they could be used start to last longer. The word that comes in early in the morning stays all afternoon. It's still easy to see where to go after lunch, even though it costs more to follow through on what you said during worship. The wait doesn't go away. The time of waiting is getting shorter. In the second week, the choices that have been going around and around start to land. This is what thousands of users have said happened most often. Making choices doesn't get easier in the sense that they cost less, it just gets cleaner. There is no longer any fog between knowing and making a choice. It's easy to see the way. And the decision that goes in the same direction comes right away, without the usual period of negotiating that the gap used to cause. And the choices that are made in the second week are often the ones that had been thought about for 18 months. Because the gap closed, not because things changed. People around you start to notice in the third week. This isn't because you say what you've been up to. It's because the person they only knew in part is now there in full, and they can tell the difference in the quality of your presence. When you are in the room, you are more fully in the conversation. And when you are praying, you are more fully in the prayer. The signal that the full instrument is working is how full your presence is. The provision that God set up for this season starts to become clear in a way that it wasn't clear before the end of the first month. The events He planned start to happen in the order He set them up. You start to find the connections He set up. The doors He opened start to look like doors, instead of just walls in rooms He doesn't know. When the closing window is opened all the way, what was inside it comes out at the speed that full reception allows. This timeline wasn't made up by me. It's how the 18,000 people who have used what Dr. Brown built have always described their experience. The specifics depend on the person. The direction stays the same. Restoration leads to reception. Movement comes from reception. The quality of life that the formation was always planning for comes from movement. Before I end this message, I want to say one more thing that is very important to fully understand. The message from God wasn't meant to be like a window that's about to close. He sent it to free you from the weight of an incomplete instrument. The words in this message were not meant to be harsh. It was there to set things straight, as clear as a final window's full weight should be. The clarity doesn't point to a threat either. There is a way in. The arrangement has never been this full at the start. And the receiver that comes in at full capacity is the receiver that you should have had all along. The group was made for this. The getting ready was for this. This is what the times of testing, growth, and refinement were for. And the tool that moves the ready person through the open window is ready to be put back to use in the way it was meant to be used right now in this window. On this page. Please don't let the weight of this message make you feel at ease. That would lead to a response that this message wasn't meant to get. The comfortable level causes people to put things off. The full weight makes things move. The movement that the full weight makes is the movement that goes into the closing window and gets to everything that God put there. If this message really feels heavy to you right now, chosen one, leave the word window in the comments. Share this message with someone you know who is in that closing window and doesn't know how to fully enter it. They don't need to know anything about neuroscience. They need to know that the window is open and that the instrument can be fixed. The link you're about to click is not a test of something unknown. You can use a tool that Dr. Barone built over 20 years, and that has now been used by 18,000 people to bridge the gap between what God sent and what they could hold. It's not a question of whether you can pay $39 or not. You need to decide if you are willing to pay a tenth of what a single clinical session costs to start the restoration right away, instead of putting off the work until then. The guarantee also gets rid of the only risk that was ever there. There is a link in both the description and the comment that was pinned. $4.39 today, plus 4 free bonuses, a money-back guarantee, a verified source, and the system that Dr. Barron built over 20 years based on Dr. Roger Sperry's Nobel Prize research. The weight of what was said here would carry this message if it did its job. Come back to this channel, because the person who entered it at full capacity owns what happens after the window closes. That person is you. May the closing window bring everything God planned inside it to the chosen one who got this message with all its weight and chose to move from it. I pray that the receiver that holds all of what he sends is healed and stays healed. May the provision that was set up for this season become fully available. And may the job that was waiting for the full version of you start moving in the way that the full instrument does. The window is wide open. The receiver is being fixed up. And everything God planned for this season is now open to you in its entirety. You are about to enter your divine future. But remember, this breakthrough is not for you alone. Your testimony is the bridge someone else will use to reach their own miracle. Archangel Michael is inviting you to visit community through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. By joining our like-minded community, you are no longer praying in isolation. You are adding your voice to a global sanctuary, where we discuss the Word daily, and stand in the gap for one another. This is not poetry when Jesus says, "Give, and heaven will open over you." On this platform, every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and a hedge of safety for your family. Now is your time. Step into our community prayer wall, share your heart, and as you give, watch God multiply what you let go of. Let's finish this journey together. Visit Out Community now, join the family, and see your heavens open. Before we get to the end of this powerful story, let's reflect on this deep truth. You did not find this message by accident. This is a divine appointment meant specifically for you. You are being invited into a protected, faith-filled community at the link in the description and pinned comment, a place where divine abundance is not just a hope, but a promise built on the Word. By heading to the site right now, you are unlocking access to a sacred community of like-minded believers. When you join our membership tiers, you gain immediate entry to powerful content, daily devotions, and divine insights that are hidden from the world. This is your chance to enter a sanctuary, where you will receive spiritual guidance, unwavering support on our prayer wall, and speedy progress toward your destiny. Do not let this moment of destiny pass you by. Your breakthrough is waiting. Join our inner circle through the exclusive link in the description. This is how you guarantee you never miss the personalized messages and spiritual warfare tools meant to elevate your life. If you feel called to deepen your connection, the link is waiting for you in both the pinned comment and the description. For those who want to amplify this work and carry the light home, you can find our guided ebooks and Bibles in the pinned comment. Whether you join as a member or sow a seed through our resources, your presence and energy change the world. Take the step. Your abundance awaits.